you about the unfolding future of local radio. And that might sound surprising to you. You might be thinking, radio, local radio. In a talk about the future, why are we thinking about something of the past? Isn't radio dead? Doesn't nobody listen to radio anymore? And it's all about podcasting. It's all about the future. It's all about digital technology and social and swiping. Well, radio does have a future, and it is here, and I want to tell you about its unfolding future. But before we look to the future, we can look back to the past. Radio is old, really old, over 100 years old, and actually Daventry has its connection. But first, over 100 years ago, Chelmsford, Essex, what's seen as the birthplace of radio, where it all started. And then only a few years after that, Daventry, only a few miles away from here, masts, antennas, transmitters, cables and hunks of metal, broadcasting radio across the country. And in that history from 100 odd years ago to the 90s, we saw shortwave, medium wave, long wave, until Daventry itself was part of the new change of radio in local DAB radio. And radio has always changed and always evolved and always been about changing for the future. But that's about platforms, how we listen to radio. But what about radio itself? Because when it first started, it was just radio, and it was national. And then we had international radio. It was the BBC. This is the BBC with its light service. And then in the 60s, we saw pirate radio. What was seen as the age of, pirates on ships. That's where it comes from. Ships in the middle of nowhere, beaming radio, away from the traditional, what was the BBC local back then, BBC national back then, to presenters, flashy jocks, playing rock and pop and chatting. And there's some great movies out there to watch that. And then we saw the birth of local radio. In the 70s and 80s, we saw a new wave of radio. Some national, but a lot local. Again, those presenters playing rock and pop music, but also playing adverts. What a lot of you would know as commercial radio. Quite a lot of it local. And even here, local brands that you would have grown up with. And then 15 years ago, that started to change. Those local stations started homogenizing, started merging, coming together, buying each other, and turning into national brands. Stations that once were the heart of the local community, local presenters, now all coming from London. National brands with a slight local feel, with some local ads and local information. And ironically, those stations that you would know as, like I said, commercial radio, actually hold a local radio license. And I should know. I've been there. I've seen the changing in the radio landscape. I've worked for local BBC. I've worked for local commercial radio. And I now have the pleasure and the privilege of working for community radio. 20 years ago, community radio was born. Community radio comes in lots of different shapes and sizes. Normally it's of community of a location or community of interest or identity. And when it first launched, it was mainly of those communities of interest and identity. Communities left behind by what was then the mainstream media and mainstream radio to provide them a platform. But in the last 15 years, as what were traditional local stations have become those nationals, community radio has stepped up and become the new local radio. And it is all about local. My station and the stations I'm involved with, it's about being passionately local, providing a platform for the local community. Charity groups, organisations, individuals, all passionate about local. Powered by local as well. My station, like a lot of other community radio stations, all the presenters are volunteers, powered by volunteers from the local community, helping share their passion and helping be connected to the local area. And what does the kind of radio does that look like now? Well, you've got your traditional radio, your entertainment radio. Presenters playing lots of music with their what's on guides and some short interviews and snappy fun, helping you feel connected. To specialist music shows, your rock, your pop, your classical music. And even those specialist music shows, for me, still have a local feel. Championing local artists, being a place for the people passionate about that genre locally to still experience that genre. So still finding a way to show the local people that music. And then we have what I call specialist content shows. And these are shows dedicated to ideas, to people, to identity. So whether it's a film show or an LGBT show, or for us, we also have a dedicated business show. Having interviews across all those shows, interviews for local people and local organisations. So whether it's a 2-minute interview of who you are, what you do, all the way up to a 20-minute interview, giving people a platform to really talk through their ideas, or even bringing politicians on and holding them to account, helping people feel connected, informed, and involved. Alongside that, local news and information. And those interviews have impact, have real impact and real effect. So from the community group that's running a family fun day, talking about what they're doing, to a local face painter hearing that interview and offering to come and do an afternoon of face painting for free. Or a youth group coming on, talking about what they do as a youth group and the opportunities they provide, to suddenly new young people coming forward wanting to get involved, or their parents wanting them to get involved because they've heard about it on the radio. Helping the listeners feel connected, helping the community interconnect, and helping people be entertained, informed, and engaged. But back to my original starting point, how does radio matter? Does anyone even listen to radio? Are you all podcast listeners? Well, people do listen to radio. But let's have a little game. How many people here listen to the radio? A good number, which is good to see. And let's have a little game of higher and lower, though. How many of a percentage of the UK do you think listen to radio every week? 50%? Higher or lower? 75%? Higher or lower? Well, it's actually 86, 87% of the over 15, the adult population, listen to the radio every week. And that's according to RAJAR, the audience measurement. And my podcast listeners, I'm a podcast listener too, so I'm not causing any division there. But we're in a bit of a bubble. Podcast listening, actually, only 26% of adults in the UK listen to podcasts every week. So radio far outstrips that. So if people ever tell you radio's dead and dying, it's not true. Radio is alive, and local radio is even more vibrant. Because in a world where we have the news at our fingertips, that we're a swipe away from being anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country, from TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, where there's trust and what the future of AI and the future of social media looks like, and people don't always know what they can believe. Radio is trusted. Radio is one of the most trusted mediums there are out there. And in fact, local radio is even more trusted than that. People want that connection. People trust that connection. And local radio has an unfolding future, and you can be part of it. You can listen to your local radio station. You can get involved in your local radio station. Whether you're an ambassador for that station, encouraging other people to listen, to support, to get involved. Whether you're helping itself become a presenter, help behind the scenes. Feel connected, feel part of the community. Again, these transport us across the world, where local radio can help you feel connected to your house, to your street, to your neighbourhood, to your town. And only local radio has the power to do that. So the unfolding future of local radio is to grow and to thrive. And with your support, or with the listener's support, can do that. Your unfolding future of radio is to listen, engage, and share in that local. Thank you.